Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mastermind Moments podcast.
Hosted by your pals, Josh and Sasha.
Join us during our weekly mastermind as we collaborate on how to make the most out of our lives.
Not only are we going to mastermind our careers, we're going to work on all areas of life together.
Let's do it. Listen in as we make the most of our mastermind moments.
Hello, good morning or afternoon for you, I guess.
Hello. Yeah, it's very mid-afternoon for me. Where are you right
I'm in LA right now, so it's 6:30 in the morning.
now? Right. Okay. Post Coachella.
Post Coachella. Oh my God.
And how long are you in LA for?
I'm here for 10 days, so I think I'm leaving, I guess now a week. So I'm leaving
Yeah.
in a week. Yeah, so leaving the
Well,
30th.
I don't know what your plans are. Bella lives there.
How did I forget?
It's easy to
Oh,
forget. I forget she exists sometimes, but she does live there.
wow. I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah.
Am I okay?
Well, apparently, maybe not, but I guess we can talk about that.
We can get into it. So let's spin a wheel before we get into all the drama. Social. How do you stay connected with friends and family, especially those who live far away?
Very relevant after what I just said about my sister who lives in LA, literally the other side of the world to me. I feel like every single time you spin a wheel is like a very apt question. Like it's very relevant for what we're going through. At least one of us always has something to relate to it in that moment.
Why not?
I guess so. I guess it makes sense because the wheel is for all parts of our life, right? So we're all experiencing every part of it at some point. So what was the question? How do I stay?
Connected with friends and family who live far away.
Well, another very relevant person that I stay in touch with is you. I think there's so many different ways that you can do it. For example, Bella, she just calls me whenever she's free because of the time difference. When she's free, which is usually like morning or lunchtime, it's usually my evening. So I'm at home and it just works for us. So I think figuring out the time zones and making sure that that works. And Bella and I probably talk on the phone maybe once a week or so, and we just catch up and we make that conscious effort to do so. Obviously, you and I have made voice messages work, and a lot of my circle, and of course your circle, is very far away from us, right?
Yeah.
Because of the environment we went through when we were teenagers, and now, of course, with your traveling. But I think I've over the years been quite good at just texting and voice messaging. I really enjoy voice messaging. I think that's really worked for us. It's really worked for a lot of my Tony Robbins friends. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the people that I'm closest to still from the Robbins environment who don't live in the UK. And it is all really centered around the occasional voice message, and not as frequent as we do it, but it's every time we catch up, it's generally speaking voice messages. So I think like with time zones and with distance, voice messages and WhatsApp or iMessage and using that for that purpose is such a lifesaver.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I feel like for me, it depends on the person and depends on the relationship because sometimes voice messages work. Like for you and I, it works so well. But for some people, it's not something that works. Like texting might be better or calling might be better. So it's like feeling it out for each relationship and each individual. Matt Brunke and I used to like actually write letters to each other.
Really, that's so cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So like even that in some level, like there are different ways to stay in contact, but sometimes it's like feeling out what communication style works best for each relationship because each relationship is very different.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it's true for me. I've got friends who hate voice messages, and I used to hate them. I hated the sound of my own voice in the past. I just couldn't listen to it, and so I thought I just felt weird about sending a voice message, right? So that was in the past, and I've adapted to it because it's just it's just part of me growing up in a way. I've
Yeah.
got used to it and become more confident and less self-conscious in my voice. But some people just don't like it. And also some people just don't have the time to listen to, let's say you send me a 15, 20-minute voice message. Some people just wouldn't have the time to listen to it. You know? But we find the time, we bounce back and forth. I think our lives, we make it a priority as well. I think for me, when I see that I've got a long message from you, um, I make it a priority to go and listen, to set some time aside and listen and take notes because the notes are really important for those long voice messages. But for example, and I don't know how you find this, but I sent Katie a voice message a few days ago, and she like kept it on iMessage but never replied. And I think just some people just don't have the capacity necessarily for it.
Mm-hmm.
But letters are a really nice thing, and letters actually, funnily enough, are something that worked in the past for me and Katie. And she actually sent me a few weeks ago an old letter that she found that I'd sent her from years ago, I think going back to 2017 or something.
That's so
Um,
sweet.
so yeah, it was really cringe. Like I can't believe I used to, I can't believe I used to write like that, but it was cute nonetheless. But that
I love
worked for
that.
us.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, but we also have, you and I have rules around our voice messages. Like we have a rule that you could take as long as you need to reply, just like reply when you have space and presence to reply. And then also like it can be as long or as short or as many as you want. That's fine. And poor Josh, sometimes when I'm under the influence and I send him voice messages, like half the time I'm just like la 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 la. I'm not saying anything really. And I'm just like, well, that's the luck of the draw. Sometimes I say something really interesting and sometimes I'm just like, what am I doing? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there was a phase. Now it seems to be more succinct, even with the 10, 12-minute voice messages. It's still pretty to the point, and you say things that you needed to say and get off your chest. Like there's no waffling. I think in the past there would be voice messages that you'd send where probably 3, 4 minutes, if not more, genuinely was like intro and outro. So just talking about the sponsorships of the voice message and just waffling at the end, trying to go, is there anything else I need to talk about? Is there anything I'm missing? And that would make up like half the voice message. But you've definitely got better. I think practice makes perfect when it comes to voice messages. I'm the same as well, though. I waffle a lot.
Yeah. But sometimes the sponsorships are funny though. Come on.
Oh, absolutely. The sponsorships are an essential, very necessary part of your voice messages.
Oh yeah, Josh gets like a full ass episode. He gets an intro song, like an intro. There's segments like this. There's always segments of because I send them on Friday, so it's like segment like what am I up to this weekend? Segment like where am I? What am I doing? There's like the sponsorships, which is basically like whatever I'm if I'm sitting here and like this whatever's next to me. So like I have a Rode wireless mics. Shout out. I'd be like, oh, sponsored by Rode wireless mics or sponsored by LaCroix or like whatever. I most of the time whatever I'm drinking, but yeah, I'm better at not waffling as much now. But I think that's also because when I was sending your voice messages before, I was literally just like laying by the pool, not doing anything. And now when I'm sending them to you, I'm typically like walking or like in some sort of thing.
Yeah,
It's not like I'm sitting doing nothing. And there's
yeah.
typically
But
something to update you on.
yeah, no, generally speaking, yeah, I think again in the past maybe it would be voice message for the sake of voice message. Although I think it used to happen once or one day or 2 days a week over the weekend, basically, where
Yeah.
we'd bounce back and forth with voice messages. And, after a week, generally speaking, you have plenty to update on what you've been feeling and the emotions you're going through. I think the core difference now over the last pretty much year now, since we started recording these, is that I think we save a lot for the podcast, and then you will only send me the voice messages now if they really are necessary and things that you don't feel as comfortable talking about or you don't want to go in as much depth on the podcast. But I think this podcast has added such a different dynamic to our friendship, which is amazing. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's another way to stay in touch with long distance friends and families is start a
Start a
fucking
podcast.
podcast. Yeah, exactly.
Because honestly, like I would do this even if, and that was the whole point of this mastermind is like we wanted to get on and mastermind our lives. And it's, well, we might as well record it and put it out there if someone else wants to listen. But it's actually pretty cool to go back and listen to what we were saying, what we were doing. And because we're 10 weeks ahead, I think.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting to be like, how much can things change in 10 weeks? And it has added a very interesting dynamic to our friendship because it's like, there's shit we talk about on the podcast and there's shit we talk about privately, and it's like a really good grounding thing because I think this has been the only You've been the only friend I've talked to consistently at least once a week because we're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, no, absolutely, me too. I actually, and we can get into this a bit later on, been reconsidering what a friendship means to me and who really redrawing my circles, I suppose, my inner circle, my outer circle, and redefining what that means for me. I think really you're, other than Savita, obviously, you're the only person that I consistently talk to every single week, pretty much without fail. If sometimes we might miss a week and we'll do it once every, we might have a 2 week gap once or twice here and there. But it very rarely happens. And I'm really close with a lot of the people around me, actually in London, who are actually here with me. But I don't actually necessarily talk to them as much as we talk, or definitely not. There might be a couple of texts going back and forth trying to arrange to meet or very brief conversations, but hour-long conversations every single week because of the podcast, the voice messages that sometimes could add up to an extra hour as well.
Yeah.
There's no one really except for Savita that I talk to as much as you, which is really nice. I think it's
All I'm
really
hearing is that I'm your best friend and I know.
well, exactly. I mean, we don't even need to
Don't even need to say it.
say it exactly. And speaking of voice messages,
Oh
the
boy.
last set of voice messages you sent me a few days ago, I don't know how much you wanted to go into today. I'm not sure. I have to
We'll
ask the
talk.
question.
We'll talk about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay. How are you? What's the latest?
So, to update everyone listening, I sent Josh. It's funny because I feel like the last couple of weeks, you started it by being like, so you sent a pretty upsetting voice message. Are
Yeah.
you doing okay? For those listening, things ended with Dr. Leprechaun at Coachella quite dramatically. Josh obviously got all the tea, but it was really messy. It was like a very messy ending. And honestly, if I think back on it now, the ending was very slow and then all at once, which I guess is like all breakups, right? Like even with my ex, like the ending was like, if you think about it, like over the span of a year, like it ended slowly and then all at once. And then with Dr. Leprechaun, it ended slowly and then all at once. Like things
Mm,
going downhill, what, maybe a month or two prior. I started feeling anxious about things. We're going to be able to go back and listen to these and see when things started going downhill, right? But things have officially ended. He was going to come for my birthday, but I was in therapy yesterday and I was like, I don't really want to see this guy again. And my therapist was like, well, it's your birthday. Do what the hell you want to do. So uninvited him, sent him the money back for my birthday. Just like,
okay, you did that then.
I did that then, yeah. So we didn't agree to it. We said we were going to take a couple of days and then talk about it. And I'm like, I already know what I want. Like, I don't want to see this person again. So, yeah. And it's honestly, I think, a lot to go through in the last 3 weeks. I think that's what's kind of like tearing me up is like in the last 3 weeks, I've gone back to my life in Miami and have been dealing with the grief of that, dealing with the grief of seeing my ex again, having a fucking conversation with him, and dealing with missing him again. And then also now the grief of, I guess, like a breakup with my situationship. So it's like all at once. And that's a lot on top of just like regular travel challenges of feeling homesick and just not all of that. So it's been a lot. And I don't know, like right now, I'm just allowing myself to process through grief. I haven't really had any sort of breakdown about it since Monday yeah, Monday. I was pretty torn up, but yesterday and today has just started. It's like literally almost 7 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, just like allowing myself to process through because it's a lot to go through in such a short period of time, especially not even considering the last 4 months. Like in 4 days, I will be in transit for 4 months officially. So it's a lot to go through in the span of 4 or 5 months. And it's like when I sent Josh this voice message, he sent me like a message back and it was really exactly what I needed to hear. And I love Josh because he like you don't fucking bullshit with me. You'll just tell me straight up, you're like, you put yourself in a situation and a position where you literally went through 2 hard breakups in the span of 6 months. You gotta knock it off, bitch. You gotta knock it off. So, and it's right. I think I do need to take a break from dating and hooking up in general because I went through my breakup and put a big Dr. Leprechaun shaped band-aid on top of it. And literally I called him like what? The day you and I recorded the breakup episode with Stephanie, to give everyone context, that's the day I called Dr. Leprechaun, was the day that Josh and I recorded with Stephanie. And you can hear it in that episode. I'm in bad shape. Like, no one is in any sort of position to get into a relationship at that point. And at that point, I thought it was just going to be like a hookup, whatever. And it was until it wasn't anymore. And yeah, it sucks because how things ended because of the situation. I promised myself no boyfriends this year. Like I do 1 to 2 hard things every year. This year was no boyfriends and he wanted a relationship and I wasn't ready and with the nature of the situation, we just kept hurting each other. Like we just kept taking turns hurting each other and then the other person would feel hurt and rejected and push away and then the other person would feel hurt, rejected and push away and then it just imploded. So it wasn't necessarily him and it wasn't necessarily me and it wasn't necessarily our connection because our connection's amazing, but it was the situation of it all. And that's the biggest mind fuck of it all is it's in a different time, in a different life, like this could have worked, but it's literally just the situation and the timing of it all that kind of fucked it all up. That's life.
Yeah, it's interesting you said about how it's not your connection because your connection was great, and obviously that was very apparent that your connection was great, and that's why everything happened so intensely and quickly. But I also think it's worth noting that there was clearly, whether it's on his side, I don't think it, well, not, I don't think it wasn't really on your side. Whether it's on his side or whether it is just the incompatibility between you two, there was a toxic element to it. And I think you saw that, right? In the pettiness and what happened at Coachella, for example. You've seen it now. And if this happened at this stage in whatever it was in the situationship, it's going to happen worse down the line. So I think you've dodged a bullet in many ways. Again,
Mm-hmm.
whether that was coming from him or whether it was just the incompatibility, you need to read the signs early on when something's not going well, when something's not looking right early on in a relationship. Um, you need to identify that. And it's hard sometimes, especially when you fall very intensely and quickly, which is what happened here. Um, but yeah, you need to read those signs. And I think now you're able to, thank God, take a step back and go, wow, yeah, those were red flags. This was not okay. This was really toxic. And it's really important to do that and not go back to it because even if, I guess the whole thing we talked about before was um, in a year when you're done with your travels, potentially, if you are done and he's done and you're both ready to settle down, maybe you could rekindle at that point. But just, I probably would have agreed with that at the time. But I think looking at how things have been since then, I just think I think it's a recipe for disaster. I think that it would be necessarily a good thing unless he evolves in that time. You, yeah,
I'm gonna evolve in that time too. Like
of
really.
course, of course. But I'm not saying, I don't think it's on you. I don't think this side of things is coming from your side, this toxicity.
No, but there
So
was. I did shit. I didn't mean. I also did bad things too. Come on.
yeah, no,
I did think I did hurtful things on my side
there
too.
was pettiness both ways. And I think, yeah, it's quite clear that there is, you could both evolve in that time. You could both evolve, but I just think, again, similar to the situation that ended in, what, December, I you just need to be careful, not think in a way of, I'm sure you're not anyway, but you need to not think in a way of this could rekindle in the future. And once we've all both evolved, and I hold out hopes for that, I think that's not a good idea. But I'm sure,
Yeah. I find that and this is the same thing that happened with my ex when we split up is I had this like hope that it's like maybe in the future if things if the time like if whatever works out it might not be this split might not be forever. And I did that with my ex and then it must have been what a couple weeks. It took me like about 3 4 weeks to be like no actually like I'm done. There's no going back. With this, I'm still in that headspace where I'm like, in the future, if the timing works later, it works later. But I don't know if that's a just a me coping mechanism thing right now or if that's like a actual thing I feel. But the thing is like only time will tell, and I don't want to be focusing on that, and I want to be just like moving on. And if in the future something happens and we rekindle, that'll be it'll be the right time, the right whatever in the future. But for now, like I find myself automatically going there mentally, but it's not something I want to be doing. I think maybe I might just be making it easier for myself in the moment. But yeah, I don't know.
I think what you
It's
really need to do as well is acknowledge, like we discussed, or like in the message I sent to you, you really need to acknowledge that, or take this as an experience that you need to be alone, right? And you need to evolve through this year yourself. I think it was important to go through what you've been through over the last 4 months with Dr. Leprechaun. I think you needed to. I don't think there should be any regrets there at all. Um, because you went into this year with a certain mindset, and maybe you slightly went against that, or you veered against that by entering into this situationship. But you've learned from it, right? Just like in the message that I sent, I think you now know really that you need to be so careful into entering into anything like this. You need to put yourself first, and that's it really. That's a huge lesson to take from these first 4 months of the year. And now you've got another, what, 8 months to go, where you can really take yourself to the next level. You can really evolve and understand why you do certain things, why you feel certain ways, and how you can evolve past that, which I think
mhm.
is really hard when you're so stressed and upset and in this toxic kind of environment like you were with Dr. Leprechaun. I think that really has probably held you back in some ways, but I think it was an important lesson to learn. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've learned a lot from this experience. I see some lessons now, but I feel like I'm not going to fully be able to see all the lessons for a little bit just because I'm like so emotionally in it right now. But
Of
I do
course.
think I'm going to learn a lot from the experience. And you are right. Like, it's something I talked about with my therapist and even my mom too. It's like I do need to be alone. Like alone, alone, no hookups, no dating. It's the thing that's challenging about it though is this Mr. fucking Harvard Business School, Mr. guy I met him at Coachella. And it's funny because I put it on my manifestations list that I wanted to be flown out somewhere. And he's offered
No
to fly me
way.
out. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put it on my manifestation list to be flown out somewhere. And he's, I want to pay for your flights. I want to fly you out to Austin. I want to see you. I haven't heard from him, so I'm not going to go and initiate anything. If he's serious about that, he'll reach out to me. But that's the challenge there. And like part of me is, oh, but I really manifested this and I really wanted it. The other part of me is, be alone, bitch, be alone. But that's not for me to decide right now. I got time before I have to make. Granted, nothing's even on the table right now because I have not heard from him since Coachella. So,
Right.
but it's like, even entertaining the idea right this second doesn't sound great. Like, even going right now, just because I'm like so emotionally, like, really in it.
I don't think it would be good for you. Just like you said, with your original breakup, and you put this massive Dr. Leprechaun shaped band-aids on, and that's lasted until fairly recently, right?
Yeah.
There is the risk that that could happen again, and I think the chances are unlikely, but when we're hurting and when we're in pain, we seek that solace and we seek that comfort from other places.
Hmm.
It's quite different to addiction, but they say that one of the best ways to really overcome an addiction is to replace it with another healthy addiction, right? And so for me, what that looked like originally with my gambling was I became a fucking workaholic. Like I worked my ass off. And it was healthy. I didn't burn out really in those early days, and it was a healthy replacement. Now I would say I've replaced my unhealthy habits with very healthy habits, with working out, with eating healthy, with reading. But it translates to relationships as well, or just any kind of pain that we're going through,
Mm-hmm.
what's the easiest way to get over the pain is to slap something good over it, right? Something that feels good in that moment, but it's probably not good for us because actually all it's doing is pushing the pain further down the line. And the pain is still there, the pain is still underlying, but you're just postponing, basically.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. So there is the risk. I wouldn't. I know it's on your manifestation list. And that's, of course, very important, especially for this year with what you wanted to do this year. But I would be careful in the immediate future, maybe in a few months, but in the immediate future, I'd be really careful with that. And you're going to get other opportunities where someone's going to fly you out. It feels like the timing is probably wrong with this one if he does reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. If he does reach out, and if he did reach out, the dates would be like in 3 weeks, basically, which is really soon. And I
Yeah.
would basically be doing the same thing again. And it's okay, bitch. Did you learn the lesson? And literally, why is it that the only conflict is like you wrote down your manifestations that you wanted to be flown out somewhere? That's the only conflict. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm dying to see this guy particularly.
Yeah, exactly. But that also, that saying that makes me think that you're not going to fall in love with this guy, right? So he might fly you out, but I can't predict the future. I don't know. I just
We
thought
didn't
about
think I
it
was
while I
gonna fall
was,
for Dr.
no,
Leprechaun either.
I was literally about to say, in the early days of Dr. Leprechaun, feels
I
so
was like, meh.
ridiculous saying. Literally, the first time you reconnected with him, you told me about it. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. She's expanding her horizons post breakup. And then you actually met up with him, and after your first meeting with him, basically, I was like, she's never going to see him again. She just doesn't sound interested at all. Uh, what did you say about him? He's quite short or something along those lines.
Yeah.
You might have to edit that out.
Oh,
But
he is though. Literally,
yeah, is he? Okay.
He walked in the door, and the first thing I said to him, I was so nervous. First thing I said to him was, "Oh my God, you're so short." I didn't even say
Exactly.
hello.
And then you told me afterwards it did sound like there was a bit of a connection there, but it didn't sound wild. It didn't sound that amazing after the first time. Kept seeing each other, and it built up from there. So I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, maybe I take that back. I think it's risky. I think it's risky. And as you say, the only conflict is the fact that this is on your, annual bucket list type thing. I don't think that's enough of a conflict to justify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree? I don't know. Do you? Because you don't sound convinced.
I honestly, if like right at this moment, it doesn't sound great.
No.
But also, I'm not talking to this guy right now, so it's like, how am I actually gonna feel if and when he reaches out? I don't know. But it's like I hear myself, and I'm like, I know what the healthy choice is, and I know what the toxic choice is. I know what they are. It's like, do I choose the wellness or do I choose the unhinged? But it's
Listen, we all need a bit of unhinged in our life, right? We all have to go through unhinged phases and do unhinged things, but I think this is the wrong time to be doing that. There are other ways you can be unhinged and get your unhinged dose. I don't think this is the way that's healthy for you right now. I get it's interesting that you made that you made that sort of distinction.
yeah,
That's the one.
yeah,
You made the distinction where there is the healthy option for your health and well-being, and there is the toxic, unhinged option. Because saying that out loud, there's a positive and the negative. There's positive words there, and there's negative words there. Why would you choose the negative? Why does
because
anyone
it's
choose the
fun.
negative? Yeah, it is fun. Why does anyone choose the negative? Why do I choose to do drugs on fucking Saturday night? Because it feels fucking fantastic in the moment, and it helps me have fun. And the next day and the weeks afterwards, I suffer, and that is the problem with the negative choices in life.
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
choose them, they're great. That's probably great in the moment, but in the long run or even the medium run, they're not good for us.
yeah, yeah, very much so that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know there's a healthy choice and a toxic choice, and it's the same thing when I was debating going into solitude. There was a healthy choice of going into solitude, and there was a toxic choice of hanging out with a escapade romantic interest situation, and I chose the healthy choice. Like I chose to go into solitude, and I really, really enjoyed my time quite a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The
It
thing is, like, the healthy choice, for some reason in human nature, the healthy choice never seems like the good option. But actually, the healthy choice usually is the best option for how it's going to make us feel, but
yeah.
also just in general, in every way, it generally is. But it doesn't seem it. For example, it's really healthy to work out. It's really healthy to go for a run, to eat healthily. But when I think about it, when I'm lying in my bed in the morning and I need to get up to go for a run or go to the gym, I'm like, oh God, it just the thought of it is horrible because it's going to be painful and I'm to push through it. But actually, when I do it, when I enjoy it, I love my running, I love the gym, I love exercising, even though it's tough. I feel really good during it and I feel even better after it. So it's on paper not the most attractive choice, but actually it will make you feel the best in the
Yeah.
future, maybe, like in the longer run.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I could not mute for that one. Yeah, I
That's,
don't.
yeah.
The toxic choice, the healthy choice, it's, you're right. And I was going to equate it to working out as well. So I'm glad you did that. But it's,
Yeah.
oh boy.
And
I'm like,
how, so Coachella ended on what, Monday?
it ended, Sunday was the last day. Monday we drove back.
So how are you feeling? Obviously, I guess it was a fairly heavy weekend. I'm not sure how much you were indulging. It did sound like you might have been a little bit.
I
Um,
indulged a little bit, but nothing like crazy, like my regular stuff. I did indulge, and we talked about it on the voice messages. Like, two things I mixed typically are a recipe for upset and disaster. Like, I spent all of it was pretty rough. Like, the music was fun, and there were moments where I was having a fucking blast, but the experience overall was pretty rough emotionally and pretty upsetting. Like, that's the thing, is like on social media, like, looks so good. She's at Coachella, but then like I sat there Sunday. I cried. I cried for hours on Sunday at the fucking festival. I like literally, yeah, for hours to random strangers by myself. Like, I on the phone with my sister. Like, I cried all day at Coachella, all day. And it was pretty intense emotionally. And I'm here in LA. I'm here with a close friend I've known like my whole life. It's crazy. I'm here with a friend that I met at tennis camp when we were kids, like 7 years old, and we haven't seen each other in a decade. And when we saw each other a decade ago, it was for like literally 2 seconds. So we haven't spent like any quality time together since we were 12, maybe
that's so cute.
13.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really nice to be here. And like last night, his neighbors just came over and walked in the door, had their own code and walked in. I was like, oh, it feels good to be around like people who love their neighbors. And I'm like, I really do love California. Like, I would consider it. I'd consider coming out here.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Are you
Maybe
there
LA, maybe San
for,
Diego.
are you staying with them for the whole time?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
staying with him for the whole time. So which is, he's going to be gone. He's going to be traveling from today until Monday. So I have some days to myself, which is always good, especially like when I'm in the middle of grief, like allowing myself to just wallow, really just sit in my fucking misery
Yeah.
and go through it.
Would
Yeah.
you say, not would you say, it's nice to see that throughout all this pain that you've been through over the last 5, 6 months, you've traveled a lot, you've been all over the country, all over the place, but it seems like everywhere you go, you have people who love you. Literally everywhere you go, you have people that you've been staying with who've supported you, who really clearly, genuinely care about you. And that's such a blessing. That's such a nice thing to have, not just in one place. A lot of people settle down in one area and they have all their friends in one area. You have that literally all over the fucking country, all over the world. You've literally been to Australia, you've been all over the place, and you have people who love you and care about you deeply everywhere. So that's a real positive to take from this whole situation, which you've obviously pointed out yourself before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that feels really good. it's I find it's different, but like the things that I find, like I feel so loved and welcomed and cared for all over the world. The thing that feels a little different is I haven't really been around. I've been around people that I haven't seen in a long time. I've been around people that I'm not maybe not close to, but just rekindling something with a friendship or whatever. It's the people that I'm like ridiculously close to that I haven't really seen. I have not seen my family, and I saw my dad for a little bit, but I have not seen my family, and I have not seen close friends in 4 months. But I've seen a lot of like friends that I haven't seen in a decade, or people I catch up with like once every couple of years, which is, it's amazing, but it is different. It's a different type of support system.
Mm.
But then realizing you can deepen the connection, and people like want to be there and they want to support you when you show up, and you're like, I show up at my friend's house and I'm going through a fucking my second breakup in 6 months and like going through a lot of drama. It's still like it's a good way to reconnect,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And we do tend to find those unexpected connections when we're going through hard times.
Hmm.
People who we didn't think necessarily were there, people who we haven't even spoken to in such a long time, they suddenly resurface. It's funny how that happens. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, no,
Like the people
that's
who you need come in at the right time.
yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. Would
How,
you just
go ahead.
quick question.
Yeah.
Does any part of you regret going to Coachella, would you say?
No,
No.
no.
So you still had
I think it needed to happen. Like I said, that Lady Gaga joining the lineup was a sign from the universe, and I don't regret going because I think like how it ended, it had to end dramatically like this. Like this slow fizzle out thing wasn't gonna work. Like a big dramatic crescendo ending was, I think, necessary. So it's funny because I really recorded like a solo podcast in kind of in the middle of the whole thing, and I'm like, I might need to re-record that because I was a mess. I was a
really,
mess. Yeah. And I had plans on telling a story, and I just don't think I did the story justice because I was so emotional and whatever. But no, there's no part of me that regrets going to Coachella. I think it had to happen the way it had to happen. And it was meant to happen this way too. And how funny, like, that I always go through hookups and breakups at Coachella.
yeah, yeah, true, true.
Like,
That's
these
interesting.
patterns in my life were insane. Like, same thing at UPW, Tony Robbins in Newark. Go through all my big breakups there. Okay.
Yeah, well,
It's super crazy. So that's me. I'm like going through it emotionally, but I'll be okay. And just figuring out how to throw myself into things that make me improve, grow, better, you name
yeah,
it.
good,
How
good.
are things going with you? What's going on?
Yeah, pretty good. I redid my, not redid, I wrote out my wheel a few days ago. So I was staying at my dad's just for one night on Monday in the sort of countryside. And it's such a nice escape. I always feel like I can really clear my mind there. It's so quiet and just there's just nothing there but wilderness and birds and deer, and it's a beautiful place. So I brought my journal with me just in case, and I thought it'd be a really good place. I'm feeling great. There's no reason to need a journal sesh, but it's just nice to be able to just put as many thoughts as I can. That was my plan. Just sit down and write and write and write and write and just see what comes out. But what I ended up doing, because who was I speaking to? So I was speaking to someone about how I just possibly even, and I was speaking to my dad about it. I was explaining the wheel to him because he claimed that he'd listened to the podcast, but then he didn't know what the wheel was. So I, yeah, gave him a bit of an education piece. Then I was like, you know what? Like right now, my wheel is really, really strong. It's really good. And so I sat down and I wrote it out, and literally everything was above a seven. Everything was an
Wow.
eight or a nine. Don't, I don't think I will ever give anything a 10 because there's always room for improvement, right? So I don't like giving a perfect score. But everything was an eight or a nine. Most things seemed to be a nine, and then there were a couple of sevens. So my sevens were spirituality because while I had this psychic reading a couple of weeks ago, and that shot it up.
We have we ever did we end up talking about that ever?
I think we might have briefly touched on it. We might
We
have
said we
briefly
were going to
touched.
save it for the pod.
Oh, okay. We can
I
get
don't think
into
I've heard
that.
about it yet. I don't
Really?
think I've heard
Okay.
about it.
We can
Yeah.
definitely get into that. So yeah, no, I'll definitely talk about that in a sec because it is all relevant. So the spirituality thing, I think was probably weaker before the psychic reading, and now it's gone up, and now I just need to actually take action on these things. I think that looks like meditating. That looks like in touch with my guides, which is something that came from the psychic reading. Um, so spirituality is it's not suffering, but it's 7.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? Finances, again, I have an abundance of money, which is what I keep telling myself. It's my affirmation at the moment. But I'm still not quite where I want to be financially. So that was a 7. And then the final thing was my social life, which was a 7. Now, over the years, over the last 2, 3 years, my social aspect of my wheel has always been like an 8, 9. It's always been really high up. Yeah, it dropped down to a 7, which again isn't low, but the reason for that is because I just don't feel as in touch with my friends at the moment. My close friends, as in the ones that are in London, I just don't feel like I see them enough or make as much effort as I used to with them. And I think part of that is being in a serious relationship where I spend most of my spare time with her. But I think all that means is I just need to put more of an effort into these friendships. And literally that happened on Monday, and then yesterday obviously was Tuesday. And I don't remember how it came about. So I think on Saturday, last Saturday, I was meant to be going to this breath work thing that my friend was running. But it was always a maybe. I always said to him, I probably almost certainly can't come because Savita's parents are here. I need to be spending time with them and building that relationship. So if they're busy or not going out, then I'll come. But otherwise, I need to be spending time with them. I didn't go because I was spending time with her parents. And my friend, my another friend who went to the breathwork thing, she reached out to me and asked where I was, and I just explained the situation. And I said, I jokingly said, I promise I wasn't flaking. I did tell him that I probably couldn't come. And you guys, you use that word, right? Flaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she then came back to me with this long message about actually how I am a flake, as in me. She was like, "You are a flake. I disagree with the way that you go about things from a social perspective." And she went into this whole kind of monologue about why I'm basically not a reliable friend. And it really kind of like obviously hit me a little bit in the feels. It made me feel quite anxious and a little bit low. And throughout the day, I was just like, this is really throwing my energy off, and I need to establish why. So I decided to sit down and journal. Now, the first thing worth noting is that I'm not a flake, right? If I say yes to something, I fucking go and do it, right? I always show up 99% of the time. Now, a lot of the time, because I'm such a busy person and I have a very busy social life, if someone invites me to something, I'll probably already be busy and I'll tell them maybe if this plan doesn't work out, or I might be able to come if I can find the time. And that's what she was calling me out for. She was like, if you're a maybe, just say no and then make it a pleasant surprise when you do actually show up. Because she said a lot of the time you say maybe and then you don't show up. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's because I'm doing other things. I'm busy. And she's like, yeah, but it
A
just makes me
maybe
feel.
means like literally maybe.
Exactly. But then she said that when you say maybe to me, or when anyone says maybe to me, it makes me feel that I'm not a priority in your life. If you wanted to see me, you would say yes. You would make the time and say yes, which I get. And that made me think about my circles, right? And it made me think, like, so I wrote a bit down in my journal about this, and because I couldn't really pinpoint why I was stressed. Yeah, I couldn't pinpoint why I was stressed, why I was feeling anxious. So I wrote down what's causing me stress right now. And there were 3 or 4 things, and each one of them I tried to write a solution as to how I could stop it from stressing me out. And all of them were easy solutions. But then there was this one thing from this one friend where I was just like, I need to think further about this. So I actually went for a walk and I voice journaled. I thought I'd try doing that on my phone just to myself because it was going to be a long, probably waffly type thing. I wasn't going to send it to you.
You totally could have. You totally could
I
have
know I
waffled to
could
me.
have. I know I could have.
Sometimes you gotta do it solo. That's fine.
Exactly. I thought I'd give it a go because it's something that we spoke about and I was reading up on, and I thought I'd give it a go. And I came to the conclusion that the reason I say maybe to people is usually because I don't particularly want to spend time with them. I don't particularly want to prioritize them. And then I was thinking about, okay, so why is that? And am I just expanding my social horizons too much these days? Or the last few years, I've had so many friends from so many different circles, dozens and dozens of friends that I've been keeping in touch with and needing to meet up with. And now I really do have I have an inner circle where I really, I care about them and I will always say yes to them as long as I'm the time. And so I wanted to redefine my inner circle, and I went back and I actually compared it to an inner circle that I drew up, I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it's a completely different circle, pretty much. There are a few names that are consistent on there. You, of course, and then my sort of three other best friends locally in London. They're the same. They've always been on there. But there's probably half the list are no longer even in my life at all, let alone considered inner circle. So it's really interesting how that shifts. People really do come and go from our lives. And I think this girl who was upset that I don't prioritize her, the reason is because I don't really care. I don't really want to spend time with her. She's not in my inner circle and she used to be. And I
Yeah.
think what I've clung on to with her and so many different people, this conversation with her really helped me identify it. What I've clung on to with her is that we used to be incredibly close, really, really close. And I think I just, in my head, I still see that, and I still see that we could rekindle that. But actually, every time we do rekindle our friendship and we do catch up, I'm like, God, I'm really reminded why we're not friends anymore. You're annoying.
Mm,
You're just, I don't enjoy talking to you. You
yeah.
actually just bring a negative energy to my life. So when I redrew my inner circle, I wrote out inner circle dash people who actually serve me, people who I genuinely just want to spend time with. And I still came up with about, I think it was 15, 16 names. So it's quite a broad circle, right? And I
Yeah.
probably even need to cut that down. But these are
There's like
people,
another circle within that one.
yeah, I think so. I think there
Yeah.
is an inner circle, which is probably maybe four people, five people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there's a
Well, that's something we
slightly,
talked about. It's like there are rings of it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But she was not even in the top 15, 16, and I've outgrown her. I've outgrown these people, and there is so, and I was part of the sort of journaling was, I think over the years I've got really upset about friendships that I've lost, especially the Yes Fam friendships that I used to be so close to so many of these people,
Yeah.
and now we don't talk at all. And I often wondered why, and it's just because I outgrew them and they served the purpose at that time in my life. And actually, I probably never really enjoyed their company. It's just right then, especially when I started out with the S Fam, I just needed the friends, right? I needed that company and I needed to try new things, try new people. If that sounds a bit gross, but I did need to try new things and people, and I did that. And then I found people within those groups where I wanted to focus my energies. So it was a really interesting kind of revelation for me. And the real revelation is something we've spoken about so much, especially in recent times, related to you. I need to just focus my energy on my inner circle, and I can hang out with other people outside of that circle here and there. But 90% of my energy needs to go into these people because right now, those relationships are probably suffering. The relationships that actually care, that actually matter, are suffering
Yeah.
because I'm putting too much energy into people like this girl who actually I shouldn't be putting the energy into.
Yeah.
So that was a big kind of revelation. I wrote down the names and I was like, you know what, there's a couple of names on here who I haven't spoken to in a couple of months. I'm going to reach out to them. Um, one of them was Adam, and he just texted me about an hour ago telling me that he's about to move in a few weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
I have very limited time to see him before he heads off. So I really want to put more energy into those relationships, and that was a really key distinction that I've come to this week.
Yeah, nurture the relationships that nurture you. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, that was that, and I guess we have a bit of time to get into the
Tell
psychic.
me about the psychic
Um,
because you said you were going to tell me about it, and then I don't think we ever talked about it. So what happened?
where do I begin? So it was this. I got into it because my mum did one. She's on two now, and both of them were just mind blowing. I feel like we did get into this briefly because do you remember we spoke about the Ouija boards? Did we speak about that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
We
maybe we
talked about the
didn't.
Ouija
Yes, we
board, but
spoke
we
about the
didn't.
Ouija board and
You,
we
you
spoke about what
recently
happened.
went to, yeah, you recently went to a psychic, and you were
That's
like,
right.
she knew shit about my life. It was crazy, but I don't know anything about that trip to the psychic.
Okay, yeah. So the first thing the reason I really booked the psychic, Bella's done one, my sister's done one, my dad's done it, my mum's done two now with the same guy, and all of them have been like mind blown. So I did it, and what I was really looking for because of the whole Ouija board experience, where my grandma came through, and with my sister and with my mum in her two sessions, um, my grandma didn't feature at all. There was no mention of her at all. It was completely dominated by my granddad, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of information. I think I was a little bit skeptical because there is a lot of information you can find online about my granddad because he was semi TikTok famous. Um, but my grandma, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing about her. And literally, the first thing he said when we got on the call was, um, "I've got a pat in the room. Is that your grandma? Your grandma's here with you, with me." And I was like, I said before the session, I was like, if there is any mention of my grandma or anything related to the sort of Ouija boards experience, I'm a firm believer, right? I can't not believe it anymore.
Yeah.
And literally the first thing he says is about my grandma. And he then went on to say about how, so I've always said about my grandma, she died when I was 9, but we were very, very close.
Yeah.
But I don't remember her. It's a long time ago. I really just don't remember her. And one of the things that she said, supposedly, was, I know you don't remember me, and I know you don't know me, but I know you, watched you grow up. And to me, I was just like, again, it's such an odd thing, oddly specific thing to say that I don't remember her. He didn't necessarily know when she died. I don't know. It was mind blowing to me. Um, and he went into this whole thing about how both my parents worry about me, which is true. They worry about me a lot because I've had quite a troubled youth, and I put them through a lot.
Yeah.
He went into this insanely accurate stuff about my dad and how he's grieving and he's going through a lot and he's emotionally difficult and emotionally selfish. And actually, let me just pull this up because I made some key points to
You took
take away
notes.
from. I took notes so I recorded the whole thing, and then the next day I went back over the whole thing and took notes on that. So I wanted to be present in the moment. I didn't want to, miss anything. So I took
Yeah.
notes the day after. Um, One of the things, and I think I did mention this to you, that he picked up on is that my mind is very cluttered.
Mm.
I overthink a lot. I get anxious a lot, and he recommended journaling for that. And so I've been doing that, and it's been such a game changer over the last couple of weeks since that session. One of the things that, again, there's a lot that he said that you could easily find online, but there are certain things that phrases that I pretty much word for word use myself to describe my BPD. A lot of the time, I'll say that I feel like I'm going through life on autopilot. I feel like I'm just numb to everything. I feel like I'm just drifting through life. And
Mm-hmm.
he, word for word, used those phrases in the same like sentence. He said, "You feel this, this, and this," and I was like, "Yeah, I fucking do." Like that. That's insane. I just the exact words that I use to describe it was just mad. Um, but the key takeaways, I think, were about overthinking and journaling and how to overcome that. There was a lot of stuff about forgiving my dad and just being calm and allowing him to just be him. there was a lot of stuff about my relationship, interestingly, and he said a lot about how we really struggle to communicate with each other, how there's been a big issue with she expects me to communicate a certain way and to love her a certain way, and I don't do that, and as a result, she's trying to mold me into this person that loves the way that she expects to be loved, which it's been the hot topic in our relationship for the last few months. Is she
Yeah.
wants physical touch, I don't give her enough physical touch. We struggle to communicate. We've gone through phases where we bicker a lot. We have these stupid arguments, and he picked up on that. And he said, you just need to be patient. And he said, you will come good. You are going to be in a good, healthy relationship, and you just need to be patient and get better at these things with time. And she needs to be patient with you. So yeah, it was really interesting. And I think the final thing really that's worth mentioning, how much I've said this for years, since I was late teens. I've said, I don't want to work. I just want to drop everything and go
Yeah.
right? I just want to go traveling forever. That's my biggest passion. I fucking love traveling. And he, again, almost word for word, said, you just want to drop everything and go traveling, but you're just not ready yet. You have to work. You have to see through this phase in your life, and maybe you can in the future.
Mm.
He also said, you're not going to be living in London. You don't want to live in London long term. I can see you living abroad somewhere in the future.
We're gonna live on our compound. You, me,
Exactly,
Mary, and
exactly.
Adam.
He actually said with Sasha, Mary, and in a compound, maybe in Florida somewhere. He said,
Florida,
I'm seeing
California.
Miami. I'm seeing Miami." But yeah, no, it was mind. He didn't actually say that, but it was mind blowing. It's just such a kind of eye-opening experience. The way that he read me like a fucking book. It wasn't even the things that about my grandma or the things he said about my dad or my mum. It's the way that he just spoke exactly how I am.
Yeah.
Just everything I feel, everything I think. He read it like a book, and it was just insane, absolutely insane. And I was thinking, I went into it not really with expectations. I'd heard that he was good, but I didn't know what I wanted from it, and I was a little bit scared of that,
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
to expect, and that I wouldn't get what I wanted. But he literally covered everything that I could possibly have wanted him to. It's like he knew.
It's almost like he
He just,
knows
it's
because
just
he's a
like he,
psychic.
exactly. But yeah, but what the fuck is a psychic? Mad. And as I said about spirituality earlier with my life wheel, one of the things was that, my guides are my grandma and my granddad, basically. They are my
Yeah.
spiritual guides. And my grandma, he says, was an incredibly strong woman, very strong character, which she was. And he said, you're so lucky to have her behind you, because she is there, that if you ever need her, if you're ever having a hard time, lean on her, lean on your granddad, because they're your guides, and they
Mm.
will guide you if you really lean into it. And so I really want to explore that. That's one thing, spirituality, that I really want to, how to lean into that. Yeah, being on a really good path over the last month and a half or so. I think it's coming
Yeah.
up on 45 days since I started this whole thing. And that psychic reading just really cemented the kind of things that I need to be doing to
Yeah.
do the right thing, which is the kind of motto of my year so far, is doing the right thing. Yeah, so it really just made me feel very at peace, I think, the
Mm.
best way to.
I love that. Oh, yeah, you've been on like a roll for a while, like a good,
Yeah, I have.
yeah.
I can't, when we spoke about it on the podcast, how I was seriously questioning if I was in the deepest depression of my life. I was in a really, really dark place, just
Mm-hmm.
feeling incredibly low. And of course, as I've said so many times now recently, the weather is a game changer.
I told you seasonal
I
depression. I
know,
told
but
you.
the moment spring comes out, you call it spring, right? Or do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we call fall autumn. So the moment spring comes out, I fucking. And I was talking to my dad about that, because he said he suffers from season as well. And he said the solution to that, or a really good solution, is just to go somewhere hot and sunny in the middle of winter, just for a couple of weeks. He said it makes a big difference. And
Mm-hmm.
if I look back at previous years when I haven't suffered as badly. You know, the year before last, I went to India. The year before that, I was abroad somewhere around Europe. This winter, I didn't go anywhere. I was just stuck in London the whole time, and I
Yeah.
really felt it. So I think that's probably a really good solution. I talked before about having to actually move abroad during the winter, but I don't think that's necessary. I think I can live somewhere like this where it's grey and wet, but as long as I can escape at least for a week or two in the middle of winter, that's probably the hit that I need. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
give that a go this year.
Sorry, it's so early.
Oh my, yeah, I just thought, of course you're in California. God, what's the time?
7:30 in the morning.
Oh my God, so we started. Wow. Okay, you listen.
Yeah.
You go back to sleep.
No, I gotta work anyway, but I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I would really love up some caffeine, but I'm supposed to go out for a coffee after this anyway. I don't even know what I was gonna say, but
Seasonal depression
seasonal
away.
depression,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, yeah, definitely go away, take a break. Snowbirding's the thing. I skipped winter this year, and honestly, it really makes a difference. But like me moving away from New York and going to Miami, like for seasonal depression, really, really helped. And that's something I've learned too. Is okay, I know I need to live somewhere where the weather is good, like California, Florida. Like I need to live somewhere where the seasonal depression isn't going to hit quite the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you don't have
Yeah.
that issue at all. And it's, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily seasonal. I think in the summer, obviously here, most days are sunny generally. There might be a lot
Yeah.
of rain, but at least there's sun. It's been a really nice kind of April so far. It's been sunny and warm most days. But then there's been a couple of days recently where the sun doesn't come out at all. It's grey, it's cloudy, it's wet, back like winter times.
Yeah.
Um, when I was with my dad I woke up on Monday at my dad's place and it was grey and cloudy and I felt it. And again, the same today. It's been grey and cloudy all day and I really felt it. I woke up just feeling not depressed because it's not one day isn't enough to make you depressed, but just feeling just groggy and a bit like slow and tired and gross. Whereas on the sunny days, I just feel fantastic. There's no stopping.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Our physical environment, our environment like really makes such a difference.
It really does. It really does. And I did put on my wheel. My physical environment is, I think it was a 9, actually, because my home
Mm,
environment is pretty good right now. My flatmates, I'm getting on well with them finally. Um, and the weather is better. So,
things
oh,
are good. I love that you're doing good. It like brings me so much joy that you've been on a roll for the last couple weeks. Like it's been really, really nice to see. And I'm I'm glad. Like I know I'm going through it, but I'm happy that you're like on top of the world right now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get you. We'll get you up with me. You're going through it because, you've had certain unfortunate situations, but you're gonna get back up. You always do.
Yeah.
I used to look at you, and still do. There were times where I was feeling really low or just lost in life, and I'd look at you and go, "Wow, she's just doing it all. She just seems to be doing so well." And I feel like I'm in that position now where I'm doing really, really well, and I'm just
Yeah.
kind of there's no complaints, and yeah, we need to get you back up to that level.
This is life. It goes up, it goes
It does,
down.
exactly, exactly.
That's
I'm not going
okay.
to stay at this, and I need to acknowledge that I'm not going to stay at this level forever. There are
No,
gonna
you're
be
just gonna
tough
go
times.
up more.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So actually, my lows are just going to feel like this because I'm going to be like up here. So yeah, but
Basically. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, y'all, we'll catch you guys next week. Mastermind moments. Let us know. Send us a voice message. We missed this segment,
yeah.
but we'll see you guys next week.
See you
Bye
next week.
bye.
Bye bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on social media.
If you would like us to help you mastermind something in your life, please send us a message.
We'll see you next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast.